Welcome back for this, the last installment in our MSP Control Panel series. My name is Aaron and I'm a technical support specialist here at VirtuWorks. For our final topic in this series, we're going to cover device management and access from within the control panel. This video assumes that the viewer is comfortable logging into the control panel using their peer account. If this sounds unfamiliar, please refer to the first video in the series titled Control Panel, Accessing and Navigating, where those topics are covered. We can proceed by logging into the CP and authenticating with the texted or emailed code or even the Authenticator app. One of the more useful management tools available to peer users is the Devices panel. Here in the Control Panel, we will find the Devices tab close to the bottom of the page or at the bottom of the Organizations menu in the nav pane to the left. Devices will display all the machines that have the MSP agent installed. Nearly every aspect of the PCs can be viewed, from which are missing updates, each machine's serial number, who is connected to the machine previously, or even how long the machine has been on or off. Devices are assigned a device profile that controls the level of resources assigned to that machine, what software to install, and controls access to cloud folders in the remote access agent. The typical profile is Workstation. This is basically the full deployment of all assigned resources. During the pandemic and subsequent quarantine, many users were deploying MSP on their personal machines to try to keep up with their workflow. As a safety precaution, a profile was created called Workstation Personal. This profile does not allow the mapping of cloud drives and disables the remote access feature to assuage privacy concerns. The last profile is for servers. It's possible to create a custom profile and assign it to only specific PCs, but this should be managed by VirtuWorks. Just send in a request and we'll make it happen. On the Devices page, we can also see the recurring option of being able to make selections from the list and running commands against that selection. In addition, a report can be generated against the selection as well. The Show User List key will display a random code that refreshes every 2 days. This code can be used to sign in a machine to the MSP agent if the user's info is not available, or just to get the machine joined to the organization. There are some filtering options available to assist with making the list more easily manageable. PCs can be filtered by location, online or offline status, disk space issues, operating system, agent version, network connection type, and many more. Each of the machines will show a grouping of icons in the column to the right of their name. These icons indicate which software was installed using the agent and will also display an icon that will list all of the unsigned drivers currently running on the endpoint. The next column is a label for adding a friendly name to the device. Clicking on the pencil and paper icon will allow a name that is more easily identifiable, such as so-and-so's PC or front desk or etc. Moving right, the next column displays the most recent user or users signed into the PC. Status will be displayed with colored dots. Green indicates the machine is online, red indicates offline, and purple indicates that the machine requires some form of attention, typically updates. Hovering the mouse pointer over the dot will display the status. Operating system and agent version are for informational purposes only. The antivirus, free space, and firewall columns also display their status using the colored dot method. As with the status column, hovering the mouse pointer over any of these dots will provide more information. The colors of the dots for these columns are green, red, and amber. Clicking the name of a PC will open a page with all the information MSP has stored for that unit. The agent profile can be changed from here as well as insight to the status of the PC. Missing updates, invalid drivers, and any other reported issue will be visible on this page. There are tabs along the top that allow for adding notes, photos, stored passwords, and certificates for this machine. Below the tabs are commands that can be run on the profiles. The ability to rename the device, set locations, and/or the device profile. Remember, the default profile is the most typical, so making changes without guidance is not recommended and could potentially limit access to required resources. Along the bottom of the system's profile page, there are a bevy of tabs that contain granular information and statistics for the machine. None of the items there are modifiable and are shown for informational purposes only. Back on the main devices page, we can make use of the ability to access PCs using Screen Connect. The button at the far right of each row will load the Screen Connect client, likely prompting for permission to run first. Accept the conditions and select the option to always use Screen Connect for these links if displayed. A new window will appear with the remote desktop rendered within it. For all intents and purposes, this places the user in front of that PC virtually. They can log into it, work from the machine, access all the resources connected to that machine, including network shares and even printers. The remote machine does all of the hard work. The local machine simply needs to be strong enough to maintain a good connection. Internet service speeds play a heavy role in dictating the end user's experience over a remote desktop connection. The icons along the top of the Screen Connect interface allows the user to fine-tune their remote experience. These options are grouped into tabs with a corresponding icon relevant to the options within the tab. The View tab allows the users to control their view of the remote PC. The settings can be changed to show a single screen or both together in one window. Windows can also be broken out individually as well by selecting the box with a diagonal arrow. Options for quality and size are available here as well. Lowering the quality can help when connection speed is not as high as would be wanted. The aptly named Essentials tab houses many of the functions a typical remote user would need. Copy-paste operations generally function seamlessly from the local to the remote PC, but in certain instances, like a Windows security dialog, pasting is a disallowed function. To circumvent that limitation, the Send Clipboard Keystrokes button will send whatever was stored in the local clipboard to whichever location the mouse cursor is set on the remote PC. The File Transfer button is fairly self-explanatory. Users can opt to send single files or entire folders. This is best used when the copy-paste function or drag and drop does not work correctly. The Screen Capture tab also requires no further elucidation. The user can do screen captures or recordings from here. The feature is useful when troubleshooting issues and need to send an image or video of an error in action to a support representative. The Sound tab, as one could likely surmise, controls the audio functions of the session. If the remote user needs to hear audio from the remote PC on their local machine, that can be selected within this panel. Annotations allow the remote user to mark up sections of the screen, useful in training and support sessions. And finally, we come to the last tab, Messages. This panel is also as straightforward as it looks. The remote user can message the local user of the machine. The best part of this feature is that as long as the machine is connected, they can receive chat messages even if the remote session is not active. This is good for asking for permission to connect to the machine or if there are communication issues via the traditional means, such as a phone service outage. Back in the control panel, I want to touch briefly on two additional sections that peer users will find useful for managing their organization. The first of these is the Cloud Folders panel. This section houses 4 icons, of which we will go into more detail on 2 of. Shared folders are remotely stored folders that can have access assigned to multiple users for collaboration purposes. Personal folders are remotely stored folders that is assigned to a single user for their own data storage needs. Aside from the number of users permitted to be assigned to the folders, there is little difference between the two. The names are quite accurate. Inside the Shared Folders page, reports can be generated and actions applied. The columns delineate the folder's name, the space allocated, space utilized, the path to the folder, the assigned drive letter mapping, and an icon to delete the folder. Clicking on the folder's name will open that folder's configuration page. Under the General tab for the folder, the name for the share is listed at the top. Folder limit size is set here as well as the threshold for storage utilization that will trigger a notification. A person can be assigned to administrate the folder here as well. The quota type is generally set to soft, allowing for data to be saved even if the allotted capacity has been reached. The drop-down box below quota type allows for the assignment of a drive letter. Care should be taken to not select a drive letter already in use or those typically reserved by the operating system, A, B, C, and even some past C if additional drives are installed like an extra hard drive or a CD drive. VirtuWorks reserves the U letter for assigning to user folders. Be sure to check the currently assigned drive letters before selecting a new one. This is the column second from the far right on the main folders page. The Permissions tab allows for adding users to the shared folders. Remember, personal folders are only assigned to one user. Select the user's name, set the permissions for that user, either read-only or read-write, with read-write being the most common. Once the user is in the selection box and the permission is set, click the Add button. Multiple users can be added at once. Just note that all users will have their permission as displayed in the drop-down box once the Add button is clicked. Now the selected users will be displayed in the table below and will also display the permission level set for each user. Users can be selected with a check mark and their permissions changed using the buttons below the table. Once all the users are added and the permissions look correct, click the Save Changes or Save Changes and Exit button. Closing out this segment, we'll touch on the RDS collections under the Remote Desktop Services. If available, RDS collections is where remote desktop servers and remote apps can be managed. For the most part, this panel is managed by VirtuWorks, but a peer user can add or remove users from the RDS security group. Within the RDS collections page, the available RDS collections will be listed. Most organizations only have one. Under the Users tab, each user is assigned rights that can be removed or have an action run on their account entry, but the only action available is to delete the user from the list. The text bar at the top is where users can be added. Once the name or names appear in the box, click the Add button to the far right to add that user to the list. Be sure to click Save Changes or Save Changes and Exit. As mentioned, most of the rest of the settings here should be left for VirtuWorks to manage. This wraps up our 4-part series concerning the usage of the VirtuWorks control panel and the different features that can be managed from this single interface. We demonstrated how to manage users, resources, exchange mail, and accessing endpoints. If there's a section of the VirtuWorks CP that you would like to see a video for or require more in-depth information for, please contact your VirtuWorks account manager. Be sure to check the VirtuWorks YouTube channel for the previous videos in the series or for other self-guided help topics. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit the notification bell to be alerted when new content is posted. Again, my name is Aaron and I thank you for joining us today.